We knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. The Senate Republicans have voted to block the January 6th Commission into investigating the January 6th attack on our Capitol. You know, I'm blinded by rage by this, but we knew it was going to come. So now I'm calling upon the Democrats right now to set up an independent investigation and a special prosecutor to investigate it. We tried to do this with you Republicans, together. You shot yourselves in the foot by this. Now you got nothing. You'll get nothing. We try to do this with you because every law-abiding citizen out there wants to know what the hell happened and how to stop this from happening again. But instead, you just put your balls into Donald Trump's purse. And that's all it's been about. It's never been about trying to stop this from happening again. It's never been about getting to the truth. It's never been about whatever your excuses are. It's about one thing and one thing only. Protecting Donald Trump. And I am sick of it. But I'm not surprised. You'll get what you guys want. Some good cooing in your ears from Donald Trump. Maybe a few dollars here or there if he's not completely bankrupt from his cases. But here's what's going to happen. Every day, we're going to remind every Republican out there that you sided with one man over the rule of law, one man over your country, one man over the Constitution, one man over trying to stop and punish a terrorist attack. You might as well just say that January 6th didn't happen. You might as well say 9/11 didn't even happen. Yeah, I went there. And I'll do it, and I'm going to say it again. You might as well say that September 11th didn't happen. Because that's the message you're giving out right now. I'm terrified that another 9/11 style attack or World War III starts with you guys, Republicans, at the helm. Because we already know how your response is going to be. Cowardice. Like we saw here. But I'm not surprised. But we're going to get ready for the rest of your careers. For people like me and people like everyone else out there who saw and watched January 6th go down. Who know the truth as to how Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and the rest of the Republican Party in the Senate and the House, the rest of Trump's family, at least the family that's not in his pocket. We're going to remind you every day for as long as you possibly live that you excused, that you tried to cover up, that you covered up a terrorist attack on our country for the sake of one man. And if you want to take that as some kind of a threat, go ahead. But I'm gonna enjoy making your lives a living miserable hell. Like the 4 years of hell we went through with Donald Trump. Only I'm gonna be less merciful than Joe Biden. Every time I see a MAGA hat, I'm gonna call him or her a terrorist. Every time I see a Blue Lives Matter flag, I'm gonna try to fight the urge to yank it off and start pissing all over it. You don't get to wear the American flag with me. You don't get to call yourselves Americans with me. You're not Americans to me. You're nothing more than homegrown terrorists. Now, this is going to take a long time, but I want to respond to the same Facebook fool who's been trying to get me to debate him on video. When he said that he didn't think that Trump was as bad as I personally thought he was. And you know what? He may be right. I may owe him just a small apology. I've been pretty critical of Donald Trump. And I'm going to set the record straight. Trump wasn't that bad. To be fair, President Trump wasn't that bad. Other than when he incited an insurrection against the government because he lost the election. Mismanaged a pandemic that killed nearly 500,000 Americans. Separated children from their families at the border. Lost those children in the bureaucracy that we still haven't accounted for. Tear gas peaceful protesters on Lafayette Square so we can hold a photo up holding a Bible in front of a church. When he tried to block all Muslims from entering the country. When he got impeached the first time. When he got impeached the second time. When he had the worst jobs record of any president in modern history. This is a key one here. When he pressured the Ukraine to dig dirt on Joe Biden. When he fired the FBI director for investigating his ties to Russia. When he bragged about firing the FBI director on television. When Donald Trump took Vladimir Putin's side over the United States intelligence community. But no, he wasn't all that bad. Other when he diverted military funding to build his wall. When he caused the longest government shutdown in American history because of that wall. When he called Black Lives Matter a symbol of hate. When he lied nearly 30,000 times. When he tried to ban transgenders from serving in the U.S. military. When he ejected reporters from the White House briefing room who asked him tough questions. But he wasn't that bad. Other than the fact that he vetoed the defense funding bill because it renamed military bases that were currently named for Confederate soldiers. Refused to release his tax returns, although he said he would. Increased the national debt by $8 trillion, though he said he would decrease it. Had 3 of the highest annual trade deficits in American history. And because it's getting closer and closer to Memorial Day, this is a key one too. Trump wasn't that bad. Even although he called veterans and soldiers who died in combat losers and suckers, his words. When he coddled the leader of Saudi Arabia after he ordered the execution and dismemberment of a US-based journalist. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Other than refusing to concede to the 2020 election, hired his unqualified daughter and son-in-law to work in the White House, walked out of an interview with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes, when he called neo-Nazis very fine people, when he suggested that people should inject bleach into their bodies to fight COVID, when he abandoned our allies, the Kurds, to Turkey, when he pushed through massive tax cuts for the wealthiest but balked at helping at working Americans. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Other than he incited anti-lockdown protesters in several states at the height of the pandemic. When he withdrew the United States from the Paris Climate Accords, from the Iranian nuclear deal. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was designed to block China's advances. When he insulted his own cabinet members on Twitter. When he pushed the leader of Montenegro out of the way for a photo op with NATO. But no, he wasn't that bad. Other than he failed to reiterate the U.S.'s commitment to defending NATO allies. When he called Haiti and African nations shithole countries. His words, shithole countries. When he called the city of Baltimore, Maryland, quote, the worst in the nation. Claimed that he had single-handedly brought back the phrase Merry Christmas, even though it hadn't gone anywhere. When he forced his cabinet members to praise him publicly like some cult leader. Believed he should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, though he didn't do a damn thing to earn the Nobel Peace Prize. When he berated and belittled his hand-picked Attorney General, when he recused himself from the Russian probe, and suggested that the United States should buy Greenland. But no, he wasn't that bad. Except when he colluded with Mitch McConnell to push through federal judges and 2 Supreme Court justices after supporting efforts to prevent his predecessor from appointing judges. Repeatedly called the media, quote, the enemies of the people. Stalin bring any minds? You think Stalin ring any bells for you? Claimed that if we tested fewer people for COVID, we would have fewer cases. Violated the Emoluments Clause daily. Thought that Nairobi was a country, told Bob Woodward in private that the coronavirus was a big deal, but then downplayed it to the public. Called his exceedingly faithful Vice President Mike Pence a pussy because Mike Pence wouldn't violate the Constitution on January 6th. Nearly got us into a war after threatening Iran with a tweet. But no, Trump wasn't that bad until he nominated a corrupt head of the EPA, the Health and Human Services, the Interior Department, the USDA, when he praised dictators and authoritarians around the world while criticizing our allies. Refused to allow the presidential transition to begin. Insulted a war hero, John McCain, even after he died. Spent an obscene amount of time playing golf after criticizing Barack Obama for playing golf, far less golf, while he was president. Falsely claimed that he won the 2016 popular vote, which he did not, after a terrorist attack calling the Muslim mayor of London, England, a stone-cold loser. Falsely claimed that he turned down Times Man of the Year and considered firing Special Counsel Robert Mueller on several occasions. But no, Trump wasn't that bad until he mocked wearing face masks to guard against transmitting the COVID virus. When he locked Congress out of his constitutional duty to confirm cabinet officials by hiring acting ones. Used a racist dog whistle by calling COVID the China virus. His words, hired and associated with numerous shady figures that were eventually convicted of federal offenses, including his campaign manager and his national security advisor. Pardoned several of his shady associates, giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to 2 congressmen who amplified his lie and his conspiracy theories. When he got into a telephone fight with the leader of Australia. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he had a Secretary of State who called him a moron, forced his press secretary to claim without merit that his was the largest inauguration in crowd in history. When he botched the COVID vaccine rollout, tweeted so much dangerous propaganda that Twitter eventually banned him, and Facebook has temporarily banned him for months. Charged the Secret Service jacked up rates at his properties. Constantly interrupted Joe Biden in his first presidential debate. Claimed that COVID would magically disappear. Called a United States Senator Pocahontas. Used his Twitter account to blast Nordstrom when it stopped selling Ivanka's merchandise. Opened up millions of pristine federal lands to development and drilling. Got us into a losing war, a losing tariff war with China that forced U.S. taxpayers to bail out farmers, and claimed that his losing tariff war was a win for the United States. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he ignored or didn't even take part in the intelligence briefings, blew off honoring the American war dead in France because it was raining, redesigned Air Force One to look like a Trump shuttle, got played by Kim Jong-un in his love letters, Trump's words, love letters. Threatened to go after social media companies in clear violation of the United States Constitution. Botched the response to Hurricane Mara in Puerto Rico. Then threw paper towels at Puerto Ricans when he finally visited them. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he pressured the governor and secretary of state of Georgia to help him find votes. Thought that the Virgin Islands had a president. Drew a map with a Sharpie to justify his inaccurate tweet that Alabama was threatened by a hurricane. Allowed his White House staff to use personal email accounts for official business after blasting Hillary Clinton for doing the same thing. Rolled back regulations that protected the public from mercury and asbestos. Pushed regulators to waste time studying snake oil remedies for COVID. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he rolled back regulations that stopped coal companies from dumping waste into rivers, held blatant campaign rallies at the White House, tried to take away millions of Americans' health insurance because the law was named for a black man, refused to attend his successor's inauguration, nominated the worst education secretary in history, threatened judges who didn't do what he wanted, attacked Dr. Anthony Fauci at every turn, promised that Mexico would pay for the new wall, and they didn't. Allowed political hacks to overrule government scientists on major reports on climate change and other issues, and struggled navigating a ramp after claiming his opponent was feeble. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he called an African-American congresswoman low IQ, threatened to withhold federal aid from states and cities with Democratic leaders, went ahead with rallies filled with maskless supporters in the middle of a pandemic, claimed that legitimate investigations into his wrongdoing were witch hunts, seemed to demonstrate a belief that there were airports during the American Revolution, demanded total loyalty from the FBI director, praised a conspiracy theory that Democrats are satanic pedophiles, completely gutted the Voices of America, placed a political hack in charge of the Postal Service, claimed without evidence that the Obama administration bugged Trump Tower. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he suggested the United States should allow more people from places like Norway into the country. Suggested that COVID wasn't bad because he recovered with the help of top government doctors and treatments not available to the American public. When he overturned energy conservation standards that even industries supported. When he reduced the number of refugees to the United States. Insulted members of Congress and the media with infantile nicknames. When he gave Rush Limbaugh the Presidential Medal of Freedom during a State of the Union address. Named as head of the federal personnel a 29-year-old who previously been fired from the White House for allegations of financial improprieties. Eliminated the White House Office of Pandemic Response and used soldiers as campaign props and fired any advisor who made the mistake of disagreeing with them. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he demanded the Pentagon throw him a Soviet-style military parade on the 4th of July, hired a shit ton of white nationalists into his cabinet, politicized the civil service, and did absolutely nothing after the Russians hacked the U.S. government. Falsely said that the Boy Scouts called him to say his bizarre jamboree speech was the best speech ever given to the Scouts. Claimed that black people would overrun the suburbs if Joe Biden won the election. Insulted reporters of color. Insulted women reporters. Insulted women reporters of color. Suggested that he was fine with China's oppression of the Uyghurs. Attacked the Supreme Court when it ruled against him. Summoned his Pennsylvania state legislative leaders to the White House to pressure them into overturning the election. Spent countless hours every day watching Fox News and refused to allow his administration to comply with congressional subpoenas. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he hired Rudy Giuliani as his lawyer. Tried to punish Amazon because the Jeff Bezos-owned Washington Post wrote negative stories about him. Acted as if the Attorney General of the United States of America was his own personal attorney. Attempted to get the federal government to defend him in a libel lawsuit from a woman who accused him of sexual assault. Held private meetings with Vladimir Putin without staff present. Didn't disclose his private meetings with Vladimir Putin, so the United States had to find out via Russia media about that meeting. Stopped holding press briefings for over a month when he ordered U.S. companies to leave China even though he has no such power to do so. Led a political party that couldn't even be bothered to draft a policy platform. Claimed preposterously that Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution gave him absolute powers. But no, he's not that bad. Until he tried to persuade the United Kingdom to hold the British Open at his golf course. Suggested that the U.S. government nuke hurricanes. Suggested that wind turbines cause cancer. Said that he has a special aptitude for science. Yeah, he said that. Fired the head of the election cybersecurity after he said that 2020 election was secure. Blurred out classified information to Russian officials. Tried to force the G7 to hold their meetings at his failing golf resort in Florida. Fired the acting attorney general when she refused to go along with his unconstitutional Muslim ban. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he hired Stephen Miller. Openly discussed national security issues in the dining room at Mar-a-Lago where everyone could hear them. Interfered with plans to relocate the FBI because a new development there might compete with his hotel. Abandoned Iraqi refugees who helped the United States during the war. Tried to get the Russians back into the G7. Held a COVID super spreader event in the Rose Garden. This was to announce his new Supreme Court pick. Seemed to believe that Frederick Douglass was still alive. Frederick Douglass. Anyway, lost 60 election fraud cases in courts, including before judges he had nominated. I hope you're listening to this, by the way. I hope to God you are. Anyway, falsely, he claimed that factories were reopening when they weren't reopening. Shamelessly explored terror attacks in Europe to justify his anti-immigration policy. Still, at this point, even before he left office, come up with a health care plan to replace Obamacare. Still hasn't come up with an infrastructure plan despite repeated infrastructure weeks. Forced Secret Service agents to drive him around Walter Reed while he was contagious with COVID-19. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. Screwed up the census. Withdrew the United States from the World Health Organization in the middle of a pandemic. Did so few of his duties that his press staff were forced to state on his daily schedule, quote, President Trump will work early in the morning until late in the evening. He will make many calls and have many meetings. Allowed his staff to repeatedly violate the Hatch Act. And seemed not to know that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he stood before the secret wall of the CIA heroes, their fallen agents, and bragged about his election win. Not to mention the weather during the election. Constantly claimed that he was treated worse than any president which presumably includes the 4 that were assassinated and his predecessor, whose legitimacy and birthplace were challenged by a racist reality television star named Donald John Trump. Claimed that Andrew Jackson could have stopped the Civil War, even though he died 16 years before the Civil War ever took place. Said that any opinion poll showing him being behind was fake, hence fake news. Claimed that other countries laughed at us before he became president, when several world leaders were literally laughing at him. Claimed that the military was out of ammunition before he became president. Created a commission to whitewash American history. Retweeted an anti-Islamic videos for one of the most racist people in Britain. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he claimed ludicrously that the Pulse nightclub shooting wouldn't have happened if someone there had a gun, even though there was an armed security officer there. Hired a senior staffer who cited the non-existent Bowling Green massacre as a reason to ban Muslims. There was no Bowling Green massacre, by the way, just saying. Had a press secretary who claimed that Nazi Germany was never used chemical weapons, even though every sane human being knows that they use gas to kill millions of Jews and others. I think this is one that Marjorie Taylor Greene would believe. Built the Secret Service for higher than market rates when they had to stay at Trump properties. Apparently sold pardons on his way out of the White House. Stripped prospective status from 59,000 Haitians. Falsely claimed that Biden wanted to defund the police. Said that his head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention didn't know what he was talking about. Tried to rescind protection from the Dreamers. Gave himself an A+ for his handling of the pandemic. Tried to start a boycott against Goodyear due to their internet hoax. Said that the U.S. rates of COVID would be lower if you didn't count blue states. Deported U.S. veterans who served their country but were undocumented. But no, Trump isn't that bad. Until he claimed that more African Americans than ever. But no, Trump wasn't that bad. Until he claimed that he did more for African Americans than any president since Lincoln. Since the president that freed the slaves. Touted a super duper secret hypersonic missile, which may or may not be hypersonic missile, or may not exist at all. Retweeted a glyph calling Biden a pedophile. Forced through security clearances for his family. Suggested that police officers could rough up suspects. Suggested that Biden was on performance-enhancing drugs. Tried to stop transgender students from being able to use school bathrooms in line with their gender. Suggested that the United States not accept COVID patients from a cruise ship because it would make U.S. numbers look higher. Nominated a climate change skeptic to the chair of the committee advising the White House on environmental policy. Retweet a video doctored to look like Biden having a song called Fuck the Police at a campaign event. By the way, Fuck the Police is from NWA. Hugged a disturbingly large number of U.S. flags. Accused Democrats of treason for not applauding during his State of the Union address. Claimed that the FBI failed to capture the Parkland shooter because they were spending too much time on Russia. But no, he wasn't that bad. Until he mocked the testimony of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford when she accused Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. Obsessed with low-flow toilets. Ordered the release of more COVID vaccines when there weren't any to release. Called for the construction of a bizarre garden of heroes with statues of famous dead Americans, as well as at least one Canadian, Alex Trebek. Now, I really don't have a problem with this, but who else were you going to put up there, Trump? Hijacked Washington's July 4th celebration to give a partisan speech. Took advice from the My Pillow guy. Claimed that migrants seeking a better life in the U.S. were dangerous caravans of drug dealers and rapists. Said nothing when Vladimir Putin poisoned a leading opposition figure. Never seemed to heed the advice of his wife's Be Best campaign. Falsely claimed that mail-in voting is fraudulent. Announced a precipitous withdrawal of troops from Syria, which not only handed Russia and ISIS a win, but prompted his defense secretary to resign in protest. Insulted the leader of Canada, the leader of France, the leader of Britain, the leader of Germany, and insulted the leader of Sweden. Sweden! Falsely claimed credit for getting NATO members to increase their share of dues. Blew off two Asian summits, even though they were held virtually. Continued lying about spending lots of time at Ground Zero with 9/11 responders. Said the Japanese would sit back and watch their Sony televisions if the United States were ever attacked. Left a NATO summit early in a huff. Stared directly into the eclipse, even though everyone over the age of 5 knows not to do that. Called himself a very stable genius, despite evidence to the contrary. And last and not least, refused to commit to a peaceful transfer of power and kept this promise. And a whole bunch of other things I can't name right now or remember, but other than that, no. He's not that bad. Except for everything I just listed, he's not that bad. And this is the guy, this is the jack-off that these people, these Republicans, have let loose, have let go unpunished for January 6th. God help all of you for that. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.